Welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ daily news television show, broadcasting live and available on demand on your favorite streaming channels.
We are proud to announce that YouTube has recognized Queer News Tonight, certified by analytics company vidIQ, as the world's most popular LGBTQ streaming news show. Our queer stories have reached over 10 million views.
We are proud that Queer News Tonight has more YouTube subscribers than any other LGBTQ+ brand in Florida.
We thank you for watching and supporting our voice in the LGBTQ+ community. There is no other news program in the LGBTQ+ world like Queer News Tonight.
And it is Wednesday, May 7th, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we'll tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
You're watching Queer News Tonight, the world's first daily LGBTQ evening news show.
Hey all, welcome to the world's most important LGBTQ evening news show.
Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a nonprofit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ community.
Our nonprofit mission is to support the 11 pillars of our LGBTQ community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of lesbian, trans, Latino, Black, healthcare, seniors, students, faith, social justice, business, and queer culture. Help us support our diverse community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ+ nonprofit media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network. In 2025, our magazine is celebrating 40 years of the LGBTQ+ experience, and Queer News Tonight is celebrating our 5th anniversary with more than 10,000 LGBTQ+ television stories. We will produce the 25th anniversary of our Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival on June 14th. We present Pride Fête in August and Pride Fort Lauderdale in February. Our magazine, events, television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ+ and broader community.
In 2025, more than 100 community leaders and anchors will host this show to support the LGBTQ community. Let's meet today's anchors here at Queer News Tonight. Let's welcome anchor Bishop Durrell Watkins, the senior minister at Sunshine Cathedral, one of the most important LGBTQ churches in the world. He is an auxiliary bishop of the Global Justice Institute and the current president of the Divine Science Federation. Durrell, the Interfaith Pride service at Sunshine Cathedral is June 4th. Tell us what's going on.
On June 4th at 7 p.m., Sunshine Cathedral in Fort Lauderdale will host an Interfaith LGBTQ+ Pride service, welcoming individuals of all or no faith traditions. Organized by our inclusive congregation, the event celebrates pride as an act of faith, resilience, and authenticity. Through prayer, reflection, and music, the service affirms the sacred worth of queer people, their relationships, and their rights. Embracing the concept of Imago Dei, the divine image in every person, the gathering reminds the world of queer dignity and joy. For details, visit sunshinecathedral.org or Sunshine Cathedral's Facebook page. All are invited to this powerful spiritual celebration. We're very excited to be hosting this. There are leaders from not just Sunshine Cathedral, but throughout the community. Everyone is welcome. And since it's a Pride event for Pride Month, the whole point is that, and everyone knows, there's no point, even though I'm wearing this, in pretending otherwise. Religion has been the bane of queer people's existence. A strange and complicated relationship. Queer people are innately spiritual. They want community, and yet spiritual communities have often said, anybody but you. So I think it's very important for Pride for those who want to reclaim their spiritual agency as well as their sexual identity and their sexual orientation. So it's not to convert anybody, it's to celebrate whoever you are and wherever you are on your journey, which is why it's interfaith and part of a Pride celebration. We want you to be proud of all of who you are, including your spiritual journey.
I love that. And you had me at queer dignity and queer joy, and we could use much more of that.
And I think the message is so important because we have so much more in common that, makes us different. So for myself, like I'm Muslim, I grew up Muslim, and I attend Sunshine Cathedral, on certain occasions. And I love the messages that you and the rest of the congregation, have, just about unity and about strength and togetherness and just being together.
It is a powerful message. It's something that resonates with me. I'm not someone that is religious or does practice, but it gives me hope that the door is open, that if there is a need for me to, explore my spiritual side, that I do have congregations that do support the LGBTQ plus community. And, Sunshine Cathedral supports so many nonprofit organizations. It's just so wonderful to see them broadening and educating, something on a topic that, some people may not know about.
Well said. Same. Thanks for all the work you do.
Thank you.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at Interfaith Pride Service at Sunshine Cathedral on June 4th. Let's welcome anchor Kal Gajraj. Dr. Kal Gajraj is the Senior Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer at CAN Community Health. Dr. Gajraj is also a senior advisor at the U.S. Institute of Diplomacy and Human Rights, a professor at Miami-Dade College School of Global Business, and on the Communications Council and contributor at Forbes. Kal, Sista, Hotspots magazine's news issue will be out on May 8th. Tell me what's happening.
Hotspots magazine is back with another important queer issue. It will be on stands on Thursday, May 8th. The magazine issue will have interesting features like the one on Margaret Cho, where Chris Azzopardi has an extensive chat with her about her new anthem for trans youth, gay pop worship, and her Republican bottom muse. There is a feature for all burger lovers on the occasion of National Burger Month. Go ahead and find out the places in South Florida that serve the best burgers. The issue will also spill the beans on the upcoming 6th annual Floatorama, Pride Fort Lauderdale, and more. This is so exciting. I always love picking up a copy of Hotspots magazine every week and just flipping through it, looking through all the photos of all of my friends, of all the events, and then all the upcoming events as well. And then, of course, like getting to know like all the events like Floatorama and Pride Fort Lauderdale and, the Stonewall Pride that's coming up. It's really a great reminder to add events to my calendar.
Yeah. There's always something going on. And this is a great issue. It sounds like, I just wanted a little blurb for Margaret Cho. If you haven't seen Margaret Cho, go see Margaret Cho. She's incredible. And also it wasn't mentioned there, but Wanda Sykes is here in South Florida the same night. And she's phenomenal too. It's the same night, but it's in Miami Beach. So it's not right next door.
Right.
It's next door.
Yeah.
So.
And two just queer goddesses. So they're amazing. Margaret Cho has performed here a couple of times. She's at Sunshine Cathedral. She really is great. And I'm so fascinated by the words Republican bottom. I mean, it makes sense to me, but I'm glad that she just says it. And I'm very excited to know about her muse.
It's amazing that, when I think of LGBTQ plus comedians right away, Margaret Cho comes to mind. She's been, working, I would say 30, 40 years now. Forever. And I remember her being first on TV with her own TV series as an Asian American family.
The first ever.
Yeah. So, I mean, it was groundbreaking then. It didn't have success that it should have, but, she's persevered and she's reinventing herself. And so, this is it's a great exposure for her. I wish her well.
This is neither here nor there, but she's gotten me through some tough time. I mean that sincerely. I remember I think that's true for so many folks. Like comedy and humor is such a powerful tool towards healing, and she's really good at tapping into that. Thanks for this. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing, and Queer News Tonight looks forward to the Hotspots magazine's new issue on Thursday, May 8th. Please welcome Edward Otto Zielke, an accomplished brand influencer and marketing leader with a dynamic background in financial services and travel marketing. Edward currently serves as the Director of Marketing and Sponsorship for the Gay Men's Chorus of South Florida, which I love, the state's leading LGBTQ plus nonprofit arts organization. He serves on the Gala Chorus's Communications Committee, amplifying the power of queer voices through music and storytelling. Awesome. Edward, big gay Italian comedy hits Hard Rock on May 31st. Tell me, what can you tell us about it?
Thanks, Julio. On Saturday, May 31st at 8 p.m., the Hard Rock Event Center's Seminole Ballroom will host My Big Gay Italian Funeral, a hilarious theatrical sequel to My Big Gay Italian Wedding. Tickets just start at $35. The play follows Anthony as he reunites with his estranged gay brother Peter at their father Joe's funeral. Packed with outrageous family drama and unexpected twists, the show promises a riot of laughs and emotional surprises. This over-the-top Italian wake invites audiences into a whirlwind of eccentric relatives and heartfelt moments. The event is sponsored fundraiser of Stonewall Pride Parade and Festival. Tickets and more information are available at casino.hardrock.com. And I do want to mention that some of our singers in the Gay Men's Chorus are going to be featured as like the pre-show event that's going to be happening there too. So we got a little bit of hand in there too. But I have to speak so highly of Seminole Hard Rock Hotel because they've been a major sponsor of us for the chorus for the last 8 years. And, you know, it's so exciting working with them, and the projects that we're going to be doing with them for season 16 is phenomenal. So definitely, you know, if you got time to go and see this show. Anthony J. Wilkinson is the writer, and he's also starring in it as well. And so he's a riot. I did see the wedding one back a few months ago. It was hilarious. So very well attended. So definitely get your tickets.
And I think also a huge shout out to the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino for being enormous allies to the LGBT community. I remember seeing the guitar lit up for, you know, Trans Day of Remembrance and for Pride Month with the rainbow colors, and, you know, all the events that we have that's there for Pride Month, the drag brunches, you know, it goes on and on and on. And they've just been incredible allies and supporters of our community.
Yeah.
I love that it's a funeral. Because I really think that our community has to deal with that part of life in ways that other people don't. I think humor, even gallows humor, got us through gay bashing. I think it got us through AIDS. And so that we are still connecting our pain with our joy is a special queer gift. And so I love that keeps coming out of from our artists.
And it's storytelling around family because, you know, I identify with having to possibly go home for a funeral myself, being the only gay person in the family too. So, you know, to find the humor in that and look at your family as whatever it is that they are in the moment is kind of
it's like, oh, you're not married yet?
No.
Where's your wife?
I know, right? It's like all the questions come out. Are you doing it? Why aren't you eating right? You know, so yeah, this is exactly what it's like.
It's a very personal story in a way that's very relatable to everyone. And I just want to say just kudos to you all and the work that you all are doing. It's just always fire and always great. And so it's just wonderful. Congrats.
Thank you.
That is our big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer, non-profit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the big gay Italian funeral on May 31st.
And of course, let's welcome tonight's lead anchor, Dr. Julio Capo, Jr., a board member of the Stonewall National Museum, Archives, and Library. He's a history professor at Florida International University and the author of the book, Welcome to Fairyland, Queer Miami Before 1940. Julio, the BTS tour of Vizcaya's Rose Garden is on May the 9th. So tell me what's happening.
I just love when anyone has to out loud say, Welcome to Fairyland. It makes me really happy.
I love saying it.
Welcome, girls. On Friday, May 9th from 11:30 a.m. to noon, Rose lovers are going to join a rare behind-the-scenes tour at the Rose Garden at Vizcaya Museum and Gardens in Miami. It's led by their senior horticulturalist, that's Marco Perez Alvarez. The event explores the history and revival of the garden. I just got to say, this is the coolest event in the world. I love Vizcaya Museum and Gardens is doing incredible programming and often very queer-friendly. I mean, always queer-friendly, but often queer-oriented. Vizcaya itself has a really queer history. It was like its lead designer lived openly gay as a gay man with his partner in the 1910s. Like, it's such a queer history, and they really embrace it. They interpret it in their museum. It's such a great space, and part of the history is the behind-the-scenes Rose Garden, which is just stunning. If you've never seen the gardens, it is one of those rare things. They do these awesome behind-the-scenes things every now and then, so when you get the chance to do it, you should certainly check it out. The intimate $24 tour was going to delight participants with vibrant blooms, engaging stories, and hands-on gardening advice. Tickets and details are available at vizcaya.org. really check it out.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I went to Vizcaya for the first time last year for a queer event. Remember, I was there with
Yes, I saw you there.
You were there, and I think it was during Pride Month when they lit it up for Pride Month.
Gorgeous.
So it's really exciting that Vizcaya, a national, historic landmark in South Florida, is also very LGBT
They are.
friendly.
They really are.
And a huge ally to the community, and they've been doing some amazing programming and events.
It's so beautiful. The architecture, the gardens, the natural scenery. It's also certainly there were queers at the heart of that. I mean, you just know you feel so at home there. And when we have guests come from out of town, and there's some places we always, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
It's because it is so beautiful. And a lot of people don't know about it until you take them, and they're like, "Where has this been?" It's amazing.
Well, I'm one of those people. I didn't know about it.
So
I'm
field
kinda
trip.
excited. Yeah, I'm going to have to go and check out the Rose Garden, so I'm thrilled.
I love it. Also, neither here nor there, but in addition to having these queer origins, it was the host of the historic White Party, the local fundraiser for HIV/AIDS beginning in the mid-'80s. And it was for decades, right, until it stopped in 2008 and 2010. But it has long since been a space that people associate with queer community and queer resilience and resistance. So the ways that we can still support that, check it out.
Yeah. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. And Queer News Tonight looks forward to seeing you at the BTS tour of Vizcaya's Rose Garden on May 9th.
Now, let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Julio Capo, and let's queer up trans rights. Supreme Court greenlights Trump's trans military ban. The U.S. Supreme Court has just delivered a crushing blow to transgender Americans serving in the military. In a 6-3 decision issued Tuesday, the court granted the Trump administration's request to immediately enforce its sweeping ban on transgender military service. The unsigned order allows the Pentagon to begin discharging service members with a diagnosis or history of gender dysphoria and block future enlistments. This decision follows Executive Order 14183, pushed forward by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. The order expels all transgender service members, regardless of their record or performance. It also stays a previous nationwide injunction in Commander Emily Schilling et al. Versus United States, allowing the policy to take effect even as legal challenges continue. Commander Emily Hawking Schilling, a decorated Navy aviator who has flown over 60 missions, is one of the plaintiffs. Civil rights groups argue that the administration's actions are rooted in bigotry, not national security. In a joint statement, Lambda Legal and the Human Rights Campaign Foundation condemned the decision as a devastating blow that, quote, has nothing to do with military readiness and everything to do with prejudice, end quote. Lambda Legal CEO Kevin Jennings told The Advocate, and I quote, "We lost a really important battle today, but the war is not over," end quote. Transgender advocates say the fight continues and they will not back down. Where to begin? This is such a tough story because the implications of this are hard. And we might, we all remember the first time that he tried to do this under his first presidency, right? That is, he made this kind of similar order through a tweet without any kind of plan, without any kind of understanding, and that's still and it was similarly rooted in bigotry and hatred and transphobia, of course, at the root of all this. So this is horrifying, and I'm excited to see how the community has quickly come together in support of our military veterans, right, who are trans and gender nonconforming and a number of other things, right? People who are vulnerable in a number of different spaces already in the military, hoping to find in the military and through the state a sense of security, right? And they're, of course, being dismissed, right? So as a historian, where this immediately goes to me is this is not new, right? That is, the idea of seeing trans and queer people as national threats is decades old and a kind of old playbook. That is, to see this as being anti-American, as somehow a kind of problem to the state, has never been rooted in any kind of reality except for the reality of hatred. And that is just really hard to swallow.
It's painful to me to see that LGBTQ plus people that's how big we are, want to defend the country that will not defend them.
Yeah.
And forever had to serve in silence.
Right.
And it's more difficult for trans people if I'm gay, I can just say I'm not. But if you're trans, that's a little more difficult to hide. And anything you have to hide about yourself is soul killing anyway. So this is very painful, but it's also painful anytime any group of our country is demonized or dehumanized. And it's especially, I'm fixing to preach, it's especially devastating and demoralizing when this is on the watch of a draft-dodging, felonious, adjudicated rapist deciding what's good and what's moral and what these people want to serve their country. He 7 times refused with some fake. So the whole thing, it's just hypocrisy on top of cruelty, on top of mendacity. I can't stand it.
Oof. Well said.
And it's very sad because the bravest thing that you can do is serve your country. And for these men and women who are serving our country day in and day out, for the country to turn against them,
it's ugly.
It's awful. It's very sad that we've come to a point in our country's history where, 10, 15, 100 years from now, we're going to look back and be like, what did we do?
Yeah.
This actually, you pointed on something in the beginning with the tweet that Donald Trump did. It kind of ignited a fire.
Yeah.
It ignited fear. And that's what this is all about. It's fear. How could anybody in their right mind, somebody that wants to defend this country, whether that they're trans, whatever it is, how could you ban people from that? It's just maddening. Yeah. They're patriots. These are patriots of our country, and this is how we're treating them.
Yeah.
From the Supreme Court, it's definitely rooted in bigotry. Yeah. Absolutely.
It's another ugly moment out of way too many in American history.
Unfortunately, absolutely. Well said, and all of you. This is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing. Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Bishop Durrell Watkins, and let's queer up the worldview. Who will lead the church? Conclave begins amid LGBTQ hope and concern. The future of the Catholic Church and its approach to queer communities may be decided this week as 133 cardinals gather at the Vatican to begin the sacred process of selecting a new pope. Only cardinals under the age of 80 can vote in the conclave, meaning just over 100 will have the power to elect the next leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics. A 2/3 majority is required. Among the top contenders are 10 names stirring both hope and concern in LGBTQ circles. From Italy, Cardinal Pietro Parolin, currently the Vatican's Secretary of State, is seen as a conservative choice. He met with U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance just before Pope Francis's death. From the Philippines, Cardinal Luis Antonio Gokim Tagle, often called the Asian Francis, has criticized the church's harsh stance on gay people and unwed mothers. He could become the first modern-day Asian pope. Also from the Philippines, Cardinal Pablo Virgilio Cianco David supports civil unions for same-sex couples and champions social justice. Africa has 2 candidates. Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo Basungo from the Democratic Republic of Congo, who opposes same-sex blessings, and Cardinal Peter Kadwo Apaya Turkson of Ghana, seen as somewhat more LGBTQ friendly. From Italy, Cardinal Matteo Zuppi has a record of LGBTQ outreach and even wrote the foreword to Building a Bridge by Father James Martin. Representing the U.S. Cardinal, Joseph Tobin of Newark has held special masses for LGBTQ Catholics and signed a 2021 statement supporting queer youth. But also in the mix are 2 American hardliners, Cardinal Raymond Burke and Cardinal Timothy Dolan, both known for their staunch opposition to queer rights. Finally, from Japan, Cardinal Tarcisius Isao Kikuchi has expressed support for LGBTQ inclusion, contributing to a book edited by a gay Christian minister. Whether the conclave continues Francis's legacy of cautious inclusion or shifts the church sharply away, LGBTQ Catholics around the world are watching closely. This conclave has incredibly important implications on the LGBTQ community. Catholics are the largest religion in the world, with nearly 1 in every 4 people on earth identifying as Catholic. The Pope has a dramatic effect on political and public perception on a wide variety of LGBTQ issues, including even existence. Who do you hope the Conclave will choose? I have very mixed feelings about all of it. I am not Roman Catholic. 100,000 years ago I was, but then I found my way through the Anglican tradition. But so I have mixed feelings because in one way, ecclesiastically, whatever happens doesn't really affect me. But in another way, the Pope is also a world leader. It's also a head of state, one of the few absolute monarchies still around in the world. It is an autocratic state. And so we should care because this tiny, tiny country influences at least a fourth of the population of the planet. And so it does matter whether we're Catholic or not. And so obviously I do hope it's going to be someone who is LGBTQ friendly. But even at that, until LGBTQ people are seen fully as people, it's never going to be good enough for me.
Yeah.
You know, until it's like, well, we shouldn't be too mean to them. I mean, we should let them have some of the rights of human beings. That's better, but it's not good enough. So I'm always from the sidelines going to hope and push for full inclusion.
Yeah.
But until then, not as mean is better than completely mean.
In my head, I saw you holding like Tyra Banks's letter, and like in my hands, I hold the card of the next like, and you would reveal who you were gonna choose.
Is that how they revealed them now?
Remember America's Next Top Model, guys? Like,
The other way, I'd be like, we were rooting for you.
we were rooting for you. I feel the exact same way. As a very, I was raised deeply Catholic as a good Cuban boy, and like, you know, I was a monaguillo, like an altar server. I taught CCD for some years and like raised very Catholic. I no longer see myself as Catholic, and but that is the idea. I have to say exactly what you said, to wrap my head around that we are even naming people who are LGBTQ friendly is really almost difficult for me to comprehend.
Right.
Like, and I mean that sincerely, to be like that we are having a discussion where people are acknowledging the humanity within the Catholic Church. That seems like such massive progress, and I never want to make little of that, and I don't think any of us would ever do that. But also, same, like, unless there's full inclusion, count me out. Like, that's where I stand on this, and that's hard for me not to have that kind of position.
Absolutely. You don't want to pick somebody that's kind of has archaic views.
Right.
You know, you want someone that's relevant, somebody that's now with the time. So, you know, anything less is spiritual gaslighting as far as I'm concerned. So, you know, I'm just glad that, you know, we have some, like you said, some contenders that are, you know, LGBTQ plus friendly, and that, you know, we're seeing more of a rise in that. Personally, for myself, you know, I grew up, my family grew up Catholic. I was confirmed Protestant at the time. So I had a little bit of a really, really mix up in terms of like religion and why things work the way they are. But, you know, when my family became Catholic, it wasn't something that I ever wanted to pursue because I knew at 14 years of age what, you know, the stakes were for me. So I just kind of kept the way I was. You know?
I love that.
And for me, I didn't grow up Catholic. I grew up Muslim.
Yeah.
And, you know, religion and my sexuality always was a tug and war, you know, because it's like, okay, you're taught one thing, but then you're taught to believe another way. And, you know, what is it you're supposed to do? Or do you just not tell anyone, you know, you hide the secret? But I do, you know, think that the progress that the church has made, you know, as little as it is still progress. And, you know, I applaud those efforts, because why wouldn't you want more people to come back to church?
Right.
Why wouldn't you want, you know, more, you know, couples to seek marriage? You know, why, you know, so I think of it from that perspective of it's all positives, you know, and not negatives, because why would you want to turn your back on
Bad for business.
It is bad for business. And I don't get a vote. Nobody cares what I think. But if they cared and never had a vote, I would be Team Philippines. I think both of those are I love those candidates, especially the first one.
Yeah.
So
we're rooting for you, Philippines.
I am definitely, except for
Tyra Banks. Don't forget.
Yeah.
We were rooting for you.
we were rooting for you.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's take a deep dive into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Kal Gajraj, and let's queer up politics. Gay Congressman Robert Garcia eyes key House role in supporting LGBTQ voices. California Congressman Robert Garcia, the first out gay immigrant elected to the U.S. House, is quietly building support to become the top Democrat on the powerful House Oversight and Accountability Committee. Garcia, who's 47, already serves on the committee and has begun sounding out colleagues for a possible leadership run. The current ranking Democrat, Virginia Representative Jerry Connolly, announced he'll step back to focus on cancer treatment. Garcia's bid would likely draw support from both the Congressional Hispanic Caucus and the Congressional Equality Caucus, where he is co-chair. Both groups have pushed for more diverse leadership in Congress. Garcia's sharp media presence and committee work have earned him a growing national profile. He recently traveled to El Salvador to investigate the deportation of Kilmar Abrego Garcia and gay Venezuelan asylum seeker Andrew Hernandez Romero. Known for calling out right-wing extremism, Garcia has repeatedly confronted Georgia's Marjorie Taylor Greene during hearings, even mocking her infamous use of explicit images by holding up a photo of Elon Musk, calling it a dick pic. With Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez stepping aside from the leadership race, new names are surfacing. Representatives like Jasmine Crockett of Texas, Ro Khanna of California, and Maxwell Frost of Florida are among the potential contenders. Frost and Garcia are close allies and have agreed not to run against each other. Will Garcia become the next queer trailblazer in congressional leadership? Queer News Tonight will follow this story closely. These stories always excite me because I love when more LGBT or allies of the community run for positions in office, and it's time. Yeah. It's time for us to have representation at our local, state, federal level. I was really proud when Pete Buttigieg, became, the Secretary of Transportation, and that's just the beginning. It's just a matter of time until we have more LGBT senators and congressmen. We're fortunate to have Mayor Dean Trentalis as the mayor of Fort Lauderdale, who's the first openly gay elected mayor in the city's 100 years. And that's just, like I said, just the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm liking to see like a lot of these, like you said, very young and very energetic people coming in. I've been watching Jasmine Crockett for a little while on TikTok and stuff, and I'll tell you, she will break it down for you like it's like receipt. Right. And I'm just like, wow, I'm living for it. So I love this energy, this new energy, because we desperately need it.
Right, and her courage and intellect. All we need is people like that. And that Trump recently insulted her intellect. He doesn't like people. Always said they're not very smart. He would have to stand on a stepladder to touch the heel of her intellect. I mean, can you even imagine? But yes, she's powerful. I love her. And Maxwell Frost, not only great, but so cute. And that's not a credential, but it is a fact. And and we just need these, because there is this huge effort to sort of concretize the minoritization of queer folk, and that there is this counter effort for the normalization of queer voices. You got to pick a side, and I certainly know what side I'm on.
Yeah, well said. And it's so funny, like when we talk about, I think all of us on some level at this point, we want obviously always LGBTQ representation and folks to come forward and be outspoken, but also we just want folks with a backbone. And all these people mentioned, I love Crockett, I love Frost, I love Garcia was amazing. Like that is like he uses this kind of humor and this really, it's pointed and it's smart, and he's been really outspoken against the undue process of ICE and the detention of immigrants and migrants and those who are sent back, deported, right? And violently deported. I mean, that is illegally and violently deported. Thank you. Yeah. And but that is to just see a fairly young, motivated group of people and leaders that we could just imagine that we can imagine a future that currently just does not exist, and they exist. Like that is so often we are always like, oh, maybe one day. It's happening right now, and I always want to look for that glimmer of hope that the kids are all right, And in addition to his own district, he has two very large constituencies also that he's representing because of these caucuses. So he could be a powerhouse. Yeah, I can't wait for all that's to come. That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight.
Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ plus story for today. I'm Edward Otto Zielke, and let's queer up politics. Michigan Democrat files to impeach Trump for abuse of power. In a move shaking Capitol Hill this week, Democratic Congressman Sri Thaddenar of Michigan has introduced articles of impeachment against former President Donald Trump. Speaking Monday, Thaddenar accused Trump of a sweeping abuse of power, flagrant violations of the Constitution, and acts of tyranny that undermine American democracy and threaten the rule of law. The two-term progressive lawmaker outlined 7 articles of impeachment. Each one alleges Trump committed grave constitutional violations, including obstruction of justice, abuse of executive power, and even creating an illegal government department with Elon Musk at the helm. Thaddenar says the evidence shows that Trump is unfit to serve as president and represents a clear and present danger to our nation's constitution and democracy. Thaddenar adds, quote, his unlawful actions have subverted the justice system, violated the separations of powers, and placed personal power and self-interest above public service. We cannot wait for more damage to be done. Congress must act, end quote. Among the charges are retaliating against the media and legal critics, violating the First Amendment, and dismantling congressionally established agencies. But with the Republicans holding a 7-seat majority in the House, this resolution faces steep odds. Still, for Thaddenar, a former chemical engineer and immigrant from India, it's a powerful declaration of principle. He says the American people deserve leadership rooted in accountability and integrity, not authoritarianism. Well, 7 articles of impeachment. That makes what? Like they had a couple in the first round, and now he's got a few more. It's just, it really is. They really should be held accountable for what's really been going on at this point. He's really a definite threat to our democracy at this point. And just the fact that we have somebody now taking the initiative and just starting the articles of impeachment. Now we have hope maybe in about a couple of years when we start to, rebuild the House, hopefully, and maybe we will get him impeached. So there is hope that we started this a little earlier this time around.
Yeah. It shouldn't matter that there's a 7-person majority of one party or the other. Republicans basically ousted Nixon. They you know what I mean? Like, it just, they say, this is not good for our party. This is not a good look. This is not what we want to be about. Yeah. This is what we want to be about. And so they were very cooperative. I mean, they were united, the Congress. So what's happened between the 70s and now? Because this guy makes Nixon look like a choir boy. And so, it bothers me that a slim majority even matters, because disgrace is disgrace. And that shouldn't be a partisan issue. And that this is his 3rd time at this. He was unfit in 2016. He was unfit in 2020. He was unfit in 2024. And now to his unfitness add cognitive decline. So whatever intellect that was keeping his most evil impulses at bay, that's gone now. And so, this is just a dumpster fire of a human. And so, of course he's unfit. He always was. And that there are 7 people. If they were 7 people with conscience, it wouldn't matter their party, because this guy shouldn't be there to start with.
And it's a shit show.
It is.
If you look on even the official White House's social media pages on Facebook and Instagram, I am mortified at what is being posted every single, and then Trump denying that he even knows anything.
I don't know anything.
Then
how are you in charge?
Republicans should be embarrassed. And there's no excusable reason right now why they're defending anything that he's doing or saying, and they need to hold him accountable. Because it's the same way they would have held Obama accountable, the same way they held Biden accountable, the same way they held Bill Clinton accountable. This accountability needs to come back, and we need normalcy back in the White House.
For sure. And Thanadar's, I'm grateful for you for doing this. That is we need more of this. That is, we need more resistance, because it's not even resistance really. It's common sense, right? Yes. That is you don't, it's like a kid running with scissors or something, right? You just don't allow it to happen. You put a stop to it before they get hurt, before we get hurt more than we already have been hurt. You have to defang the what other metaphor can I use?
And he breaks it down, the 7 ones. If you go onto his website and you watch it, it's so clear and precise, and it basically it's a slam dunk case for any lawyer. But, we're living in unprecedented times, unfortunately, and, we just don't know who's going to do what at this point.
Keep an eye out. Let's see how this develops. That is the big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. Now let's dive deep into this big LGBTQ story for today. I'm Julio Capo, and let's queer up the USA View. Utah teacher shares creative resistance to anti-LGBTQ law. In Utah, as a new law banning LGBTQ flags in schools takes effect, one teacher is speaking out and reminding us that queer support finds a way. John Arthur, a teacher in Utah, shared a powerful story on Threads describing how he's supported queer students over the years, even when the law tried to silence him.
Hey friends, this Wednesday, Utah will become the first state to ban pride flags in all schools and government buildings. But before it does, I'd like to tell you a story. When I was named Utah's Teacher of the Year in 2021, people started noticing in pictures that I always carry a lot of pens in my pocket. Well, way back in my first year of teaching, I was reading The Wizard of Oz in class, and the words gay and queer came up in the book. Some students started laughing, and I was about to say something when my principal, who was observing in the room at the time, shook her head no. After the lesson, she told me that there was a law that prohibited me from discussing anything that had to do with gay or queer identities in class for fear that I might be promoting an alternative lifestyle. Now, I had a student in my class who was clearly gay, and he reacted when the other kids laughed. I asked if there was anything I could do to let him know I had his back. Wear a pin, hang a flag, anything to show this kid that he had my love and support. She said no. It's against the law. Late in the night, I realized I'm a teacher. I use pens and highlighters and markers every day. No one could give me a hard time for wearing a bunch of pens in my pocket. So I came to school the next day with a rainbowish assortment ready to go, and most people made nothing of it. But my boy knew. He looked at me and he knew I was flying a flag just for him. Thankfully, that terrible law was eventually defeated in court, but some legislators now want to take us back.
If this doesn't fix a lot of those problems, and we are seeing teachers then starting to push, pins and stickers and banners, it'll be really easy to go back next year and just make a more blanket ban on other items if we can't get this done through just the flag.
Trevor Lee, I promise, brother, you're wasting your time. Bigotry will never outpace our creativity. The only way to get rid of rainbow flags and all the rest is to make them unnecessary. When all our kids, LGBTQ youth included, get to walk into our classrooms and find themselves celebrated in the books they read, the histories they study, and the stories we tell, then teachers won't need to fly rainbow flags for them anymore. Until then, you can count on teachers continuing to lovingly fight for liberty and justice for all.
As he mentioned, that earlier law was repealed in 2017, but starting today, Utah has banned LGBTQ flags in all government buildings, including schools. Though presented as a ban on all unsanctioned flags, the intent has been clear. Rainbow flags are the target. But Arthur is a powerful reminder that even in silence, support can speak volumes. Queer News Tonight is reminded by John Arthur that teachers are the heart and inspiration of America. I love this story, and as a teacher, I have to say I understand too the kind of way that students, all of us can resonate as students, as teachers, as spaces that the way that it feels to feel acknowledged and validated in a space where you feel vulnerable and feel at risk, and that is these kind of, it's so powerful when he says like his student knew and understood. We've all been in that space where we've seen that happen. Classrooms are not only the only space that could happen in church, that can happen in any space that we get together, right? But it is a powerful and necessary space and a necessary moment and gesture to say, like, you are welcome here too. And to me, I just read the story as one of resilience, of queer resilience, the ways that we find when we are silenced, we only get louder, and we find new ways to share our stories and to make sure that we are felt. That we build community and make ourselves feel safe.
we reinvent how we tell our message sometimes. Sometimes the conventional way doesn't work, so we find a way around it. It's so important for that.
Yeah, I was born shortly after the earth cooled, and so I remember coded language, we in movies and television, songs, and hanky codes, and the way you dress, and the way parts of town. we had lots of codes. We knew how to communicate. We knew how to get to each other and support each other and affirm each other. And so we got this. I mean, you make it difficult for us, but you're not going to give it. And I bristle. I just go into a blind rage when I hear it, promoting lifestyles. You can't promote. They're denying science. They're denying people's personal stories They act like this is some gang you can join. Like, you could just join the queer club and then, and then you made a choice. First of all, that'd be a fabulous choice if you could make it. But people are sexuality is innate, and gender identity is varied. And so you're not promoting anything other than tolerance. The only thing you're promoting is don't be mean to people who are different.
Yeah.
The only thing you're promoting is life-saving people who feel like they shouldn't even exist. And so, and for all those people who think religion is the reason that, you should be, there's a little verse and the prophet Ezekiel who has a vision of God. It's in the first chapter. And the vision he has of God, he said, it's like the bow in the sky that appears after the rain. Mm-hmm. That one of the biblical images for divinity is the rainbow. And the rainbow, what is a rainbow? It's just light reflected and refracted through water droplets. It's light. People are scared of the light, but remember, you are the light.
I love that.
Like, how do I follow that?
I know.
It's
Ditto. What he said.
No, but I think this is a beautiful story how teachers are, literally the fabric of America. And, as I was watching that video, I was getting a little teary-eyed because I remember growing up as that little, gay boy in school and knowing that I was different, but not knowing what gay was.
Yeah.
And I was thinking back to my teachers that I had, and did they show any signs of like making sure that I was safe? And that I was thinking, like, I just went through my whole history in my mind of all the teachers that I had and all the experiences I've had, and I can literally think of a couple instances where my teachers were very inclusive and very welcoming, and I thank them, for that now, that I never realized that before. And, what a simple and creative way, with markers and pens,
right?
Just to be able to show that. I think that it is very genius. So, congratulations and kudos to you.
That is a big LGBTQ story for today. There is no other queer nonprofit media platform like this in the entire world. Support our LGBTQ stories by subscribing and sharing Queer News Tonight. As a nonprofit LGBTQ media organization, we would like to thank our viewers for supporting our mission to tell the stories of the queer community. We also thank the generous support of Jets Pizza. Jets is the LGBTQ community's most popular pizza in South Florida.
Take a look around these streets. Do you really think we woke up one day and said, yeah, the world needs more pizza? Nah, just a better one. Better, like the world's best pizza, Jet's Detroit-style pizza. Hand-pressed and baked to the thickest, crispiest crunch. You're welcome. Now visit jetspizza.com and save. Click on hot deals for special offers in your area. Jets, better because it has to be.
Those are today's headlines from Queer News Tonight. These anchors represent the best of our LGBT community and ally community.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Join the conversation on your favorite streaming platform.
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines.
We need your support. If our community is to grow and then thrive, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world. This is the only place in the world that tells these type of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots magazine, Happening Out television network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm your anchor, Julio Capo, and on behalf of these awesome LGBTQ reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Bishop Durrell Watkins, Kal Gajraj, and Edward Otto Zielke, we will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ world, we hope you will join us by embracing love, generosity, bravery, and to be transformative and queer. Good night.